All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into the world of alternative therapies. We're going to talk about everything from resonant sound waves to the spiritual power of hands. And get this, we're going to uncover a pretty wild connection to the high-stakes world of corporate consulting.
Okay, so let's just jump right in with this quote. I mean, wow, that is a huge claim, right? The idea that you can just solve all your problems with light from your hands? It's a powerful thought, and it really sets the tone for our whole journey today. But how do we get there? Well, let's start with something that sounds a little more scientific.
So first up, Section 1, the promise of sound. We're going to begin with a therapy that really grounds itself in the language of modern science.
So there's this thing called Manners Sound. It's based on the work of a British doctor, and the theory is actually pretty interesting. The idea is that every single cell in your body has its own perfect, healthy frequency, kind of like a tuning fork. And when you get sick or stressed, that frequency gets all out of whack. This therapy claims it can play the correct frequency back to you, and your cells will naturally resonate with it and tune themselves back to health.
And the benefits they claim are, well, they're all over the map. You've got some things you might expect, right? Like better sleep. But then it gets bigger, boosting immunity, helping with weight loss, and then there's the really extraordinary claim of reverse agent.
Now, here's how they add weight to these claims. This therapy is often framed as being recognized by huge global organizations, like the World Health Organization. You know, that kind of scientific-sounding language, plus a nod from a big institution, gives it this powerful feeling of authority. Makes it sound really credible.
Okay, so from sound waves, let's switch gears completely for our second section, the power of hands. We're moving away from precise frequencies and into a practice that's much more personal and, well, spiritual. And wow, this quote just says it all, doesn't it? It perfectly captures the pivot. We've gone from talking about cellular resonance to the language of divinity itself. The core belief here is simple and profound. God is light, and this practice is the living proof.
This practice is called tekizashi, which basically means holding one's hand over. And notice the wording here. It's not called a therapy, it's a divine art. The whole idea is that you're channeling this true light from your palm to purify someone on every single level, spirit, mind, and body, to get at the root of all their problems.
And this is super important. The point isn't just, fix a sore back. The ultimate goal is way bigger. It's to achieve these three conditions of happiness: health, harmony in all your relationships, and yeah, even prosperity. We're talking about a fundamental transformation of your entire life.
So you've got these two very different approaches. This brings us to Section 3, connecting the practices. At first glance, sound healing and divine light seem like they're from different planets. But are they really?
To find that connection, we got to zoom out a bit. We need to look at a broader term that helps put all these different practices into context.
And that term is Tenete Ryoho. It's basically a catch-all for hand healing therapy. This gives us a neutral historical framework. It shows that whether you call it Reiki, therapeutic touch, or tekizashi, the core idea of using hands to heal is part of a much bigger global tradition that's been around for ages.
Okay, now hold on, because this is where our story takes a really unexpected turn. In Section 4, the business of belief, we followed this thread from healing hands right into the structured world of corporate consulting.
Let me introduce you to NKCS Holdings. And just to be clear, this is no small-time operation. We're talking about a massive network. 3,000 affiliated experts, from lawyers to researchers, all supporting over 60,000 company presidents. This is a big deal.
And if you look at what they do, it's all pretty standard corporate stuff. You know, mergers and acquisitions, legal help, business matching, the usual playbook for a big consulting firm.
But then you find this. A related company called Use, run by the very same people, says right on its website that things like Qigong and meditation are the greatest keyword for their business growth. And there it is. That's the first real hint that there's a direct line connecting this corporate machine back to all those wellness practices we were just talking about.
And if you needed any more proof, well, here it is in black and white. Look at the addresses. The corporate headquarters for NKCS Holdings is in room 208 of this building. And right next door, in room 209, That's the Qigong and Acoustic Vibration Therapy Salon. Same building, same leadership. The corporate consultancy and the healing salon are literally neighbors.
This all leads us to Section 5, a question of proof. I mean, whenever you have these big claims about healing, you have to ask the question, where's the evidence? How can you even test this stuff?
Well, to explore that, we can look at a famous and honestly wonderful experiment on a related practice called therapeutic touch. And the best part? It was designed and run for a science fair by a 9-year-old girl named Emily Rosa.
The setup was genius because it was so simple. It was a blind test. A practitioner would put their hands through a screen so they couldn't see. Emily would flip a coin and then hover her hand over one of their hands. All the practitioner had to do was sense her energy field and say which hand it was. Easy, right?
So what happened? The results were pretty staggering. Over hundreds and hundreds of trials with experienced practitioners, they were only right 44% of the time. Think about that for a second. If you were just randomly guessing, you'd be right 50% of the time. So the final conclusion of this test, which by the way was later published in a major medical journal, was that there was just no evidence they could actually feel a human energy field. Their performance was actually slightly worse than pure chance.
And that brings us to our final section, number 6, wellness or commerce. This is where all these different pieces, the spirituality, the therapy, the business, the science, all come together.
So we've seen it all, haven't we? A spiritual practice promising total happiness, a scientific therapy promising to reverse aging, and a massive business consultancy that just happens to run a healing salon right next door. It all boils down to this one big, provocative question. When does a method for well-being stop being a method and start being a product for sale? And in today's huge wellness industry, how can we even begin to tell the difference?